What is up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy in Motor City, Don P. We are back in the building once again. You already know what it is. When you see me on your TV, it's one thing for certain and three things for sure. Number one is that the Motor City Cats are indeed back at it. Number two is that we came to give you stats and none of that static. And number three, and probably most importantly, number three, is the fact that we are keeping your Lions news pragmatic. And we want to make sure that you are doing the same thing. And you might say, how, Don? How do you do that? Well, it's very simple. We make it easy for you. It's not too difficult at all. You just got to smash that like button. You got to subscribe. You got to make sure you share and tell everybody what's going on around here in this illustrious den of the Lions. You got the Lions Lounge behind me. You got all of that. It's the man cave. The man cave, the fan cave. Maybe even the Dan cave. It's not the Bat cave, though. What is up, though, Lions fans? We got some things that we have got to talk about today. We've got to get into it. I'm pretty sure that everyone has covered it today. I don't know. My morning routine was a little bit interrupted this morning, so I don't know what everyone else was talking about, but I'm pretty sure that it was on the radar. If you know, you know. If you don't know, Brad Holmes went on Field Yates' podcast, and it's called Field Talk. I really want to understand why his name is Field. I want to know if that is his actual name. Did his parents look at him and say, oh, he looks like a field when he was born? Or is it something like a nickname that he got? Anybody that knows in the chat, please let me know. Shoot it to me. I know I could just go and Google it, but right now we got a show to get to. There were some interesting things, interesting tidbits that came out. Okay. See, this is another reason why I hate Matthew Stafford. Okay. His wife that he continues to roster, right? I'm saying he's rostering her because he's making a team. Okay. This chick says, there's a headline that says Kelly Stafford believes weed gummies are a secret parenting weapon. She said this on her podcast. Just like when she told y'all she was banging Matthew Stafford's backup to make him jealous. Now she's telling you that she uses recreational marijuana around her children to help her parent. I just... Y'all understand, right? Like you get where I'm coming from. Like, at some point, we need to stop this madness. We need to stop this madness, and we need to. Somebody needs to do something. And that somebody is Matthew Stafford, but it is what it is. Let me go ahead and do this right quick. Just gotta share the stream. I tell y'all to share the stream. But I don't be doing it myself all the time. And I know I should. Man. It's just I just gotta get in the habit of doing it. I gotta get in the habit of doing it because I'm not in the habit. Once you form good habits, then you're better at things. You know what I'm saying? All right. As I said, somebody is Matthew Stafford who needs to stop Kelly Stafford. But we didn't come here to talk about Kelly Stafford. We didn't come here to talk about Matthew Stafford. People were talking to me about Matthew Stafford. Hold on, man. I'm having a little back and forth discussion with Easy right now about Matthew Stafford, and I just the same way y'all know, if y'all know anything about Woodward Sports, and whenever you say Jared Goff, stick appears. I feel like right now Easy is being stick. Like he's not he's not going to blame Matthew Stafford for his turnovers. It's the organization, and this is the thing that kills me about the situation. Right? We all know I don't like Matthew Stafford. I'm not a fan of Matthew Stafford. I don't want Matthew Stafford on my team. I'm not a fan. I was never a fan. I was a fan one time when he came back in with the injured, with the dislocated shoulder, and threw the game-winning touchdown against the Cleveland Browns. That as a rookie. As he was a rookie, I was like, okay, this guy, we got a gamer here. And then I realized we had a pick six thrower. We had a turnover machine. We had all of those things that you don't want from your quarterback. So I was done with it. I wasn't a fan of his. Okay, I gave him a few seasons, and I was like, I don't like what I'm seeing here. Okay, but it's just why can't he take the blame? This is the problem. Yes, he went and won a Super Bowl elsewhere right after he left Detroit. And that's great. He didn't have a team. He didn't have an offensive line. He didn't have this. He didn't have that. He didn't have the ability to protect the football either. And this is all I'm saying, right? This is all I'm saying. I never said he was a bad quarterback or he was a bum. He's too loose with the football. Jared Goff in his career has been very loose with the football as well. But you know what? In Detroit, he does have a 5 interception game. He does have a 4 turnover game. In Detroit, Jared Goff has not yet thrown the amount of interceptions, thrown the amount of pick sixes in game-winning or game-tying situations, last-ditch efforts on game-winning drives potentially. He has not fumbled enough on game-winning drives, last-ditch efforts, game-winning drive potentially, for me to go, you know what? We need to get this guy up out of here. And the difference with Jared Goff is that he was terrible his first year here. I wanted him out of here on the first thing smoking. But you know what? Yes, they did put pieces around him. Yes, he did evolve with his play as well. So this is the difference. Okay? Now maybe you can say, well, no one was there to mentor Stafford and to help him to understand he shouldn't throw interceptions. Help him to understand he shouldn't throw the football to the other team. If that's what you want to say, fine. I feel like if you are an NFL quarterback, you should know that throwing the football to the other team is very detrimental. I feel like you should know that. If you don't, as an NFL quarterback, I mean, as part of your development, someone has to sit you down and say, look, man, we wear blue. Now, there are other teams out here that wear blue, but you throwing balls to teams that wear purple, wear green, wear a darker blue, a much darker blue than what we wear. You throwing at people that wear red. You're throwing at people that wear orange. You're throwing to teams that ain't got nothing to do with no blue. And that's just wrong. You shouldn't do that, Matthew Stafford. I mean, if someone has to do that, then what are we doing? That's all I'm saying, man. That's all I'm saying. Regardless of what he didn't have. Go back, and I keep telling y'all, go back and watch that 4-pick Thanksgiving game against the Green Bay Packers and see if all of his interceptions were due to pressure. He was being pressured on interceptions, but it's the decisions that you make. You're running back, you're backpedaling away from pressure, and you just throw the ball. anywhere in a direction. That's not good quarterback play. That's not taking care of the football. At what point do you not understand we need to throw this football away because we are not going to get a completion here? We're not going to take a sack, but we are not getting a completion because I am backpedaling, which means I have to put more velocity on the ball, because if I don't, the guy who's covering the guy that I'm throwing to is going to undercut the football, undercut the route, and take the football away, which is what happened a lot. That's all, man. That's all. I don't think it's rocket science. Anyway, let's get to why we actually came here. As I said, Brad Holmes was on Field Yates' podcast. It's called Field Talk. And he had a nice long interview, and he had a lot to say, and we're going to get to some of the highlights. Some of the highlights that we're going to get to, let me see. Where is it? Also, yes, if you guys haven't heard the news, Jair Alexander did sign with the Ravens, so we are still going to have to see him this year, but only, well, maybe. And the Detroit Lions will be reporting to training camp a couple days earlier than everyone else. All right. Lions are predicted to sign someone who they're not going to sign. Oh. All right, we back. I think we're back. All right. We are indeed back. So as I said, at the time of the unceremonious interruption of the stream, I was looking for that article. And for whatever reason, it's a little bit difficult to find. All right, let me see. We will get it. Okay. Yeah, as I was saying, that the Lions are predicted to sign someone that they're not going to sign. Let's see. So we got to go further down here. Okay, here it is. And the title is, it's the Pride of Detroit. I don't usually deal with POD, but it is what it is. All right, so the Detroit Lions nearly hired Brad Holmes over 20 years ago. Current Detroit Lions general manager Brad Holmes nearly scored a job with the franchise 2 decades ago. Let me see. All right, so the hiring of general manager Brad Holmes in 2021 may go down as one of the best moves in Detroit Lions franchise history. But nearly 20 years prior to that moment, the Lions had their first crack at Holmes, but didn't end up landing him. According to a story by Holmes himself on the Field Talk podcast. The Lions general manager was just starting his NFL career in 2003 when he faced a critical decision. His media internship with the NBA's Atlanta Hawks had given him the connections he needed for the opportunity he really wanted to be in the NFL. He had job offers from the Detroit Lions and the St. Louis Rams. Here's how Holmes described what happened next. All right. So remember, it says he had job offers. So it wasn't that the Detroit Lions passed on Brad Holmes. Because y'all, we know the fans in Detroit are probably going to be like, oh, see, we had a chance to get Brad Holmes 20 years ago, but we didn't get him. We passed on him. It's not one of those situations where Bill Parcells came in and said, hey, I'm going to help y'all out. And the Lions was like, nah, we good. Okay, it's not one of those situations. It's not what happened. All right. So, quote from Brad Holmes. When I had those two opportunities with the Lions and the Rams to be a PR director, I was just reading through all the bios in the media guide, and I saw that the Rams hired a lot of their interns, Holmes explained. So that's when I was like, I actually got the job offer from the Lions first, and then the Rams offered me later. I kind of had already accepted the Lions one, but when I read through the Lions media guide, I didn't see any bios of like, oh, former team intern, former intern. So I was like, man, this is just going to be another intern, one and done. So when the Rams gave me the opportunity, I had to make the dreaded call to the Lions that I was going to go with the Rams. The rest is history. Holmes would spend the next 18 years within the Rams organization, working his way up from PR intern to scout to national scout and ultimately to director of college scouting. The Lions, meanwhile, fumbled their way through 3 different general managers over that span. Okay, I don't like that. I don't like that line, and I'm going to tell you why. It says, but fate would bring them together at last when Mike Disner, a prominent voice in the Lions general manager search in 2020, found a video interview. It was of Holmes' general manager interview he had recorded at the NFL Combine earlier that year. If this entire story sounds vaguely familiar, it's because Holmes himself made a passing reference to it at the very, very beginning of his Detroit Lions introductory press conference back in 2021. Here were his first words at the presser. How's everybody doing? Before my second interview, I hadn't been to the Allen Park facilities since I interviewed here to be a PR intern. Actually, this is right before I ended up being a Rams PR intern. So it's really funny how everything really got full circle. Still, it's cool to hear the fuller story from Holmes, and it comes as no surprise that Detroit is now following the path that once drew Holmes to the Rams. In just 4 years, the Lions have consistently promoted from within, providing pathways to bigger career opportunities, be it in coaching, personnel, or even the PR department. The Lions are suddenly becoming a pipeline to bigger success. Who knows? Maybe they've already hired the next Brad Holmes, who chose Detroit over another opportunity. And I would say that is probably a testament to Brad Holmes, where the Lions are now promoting from within. And this is the problem that Brad Holmes had, is that they didn't promote from within. So he's like, well, bump that. What up, though, TaylorMade Media? Let's see. Said, here's the other thing that is unspoken. Brad Holmes may not have had the opportunity to grow in the direction that he wanted under a different front office in Detroit. That is also true. Now, here's the thing that I was saying. I don't like their reference of the Lions fumbling through 3 different general managers over the time period. And the reason that I don't like that reference is not because I think the people that they hired were good or anything of that nature. It's because it's a connotation of the Lions could have had Brad Holmes. Look, they didn't get him. They didn't land him. They didn't land him because of Brad Holmes' decision. Now, Brad Holmes was looking at the way that they hired. And because they didn't hire from within, so you could say, okay, that was a flaw, and that's why they didn't get him. Even if they had gotten him, he wasn't going to be the GM. All right. So again, like this, that's why I don't like that sentence. The Lions fumbled their way through 3 GMs during the time period that Brad Holmes was with LA. He wasn't the GM in LA. He never was. He never became the GM in LA. He was the PR intern. Okay. Then he went up to scouting, regional scouting, national scouting. Then finally, the director of college scouting, right? In this 18 years, he moved up in the organization. He did not become the general manager. He became the general manager of the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions is Brad Holmes' first general manager job. So if you are saying, well, the Lions fumbled through blah, 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 but it's funny how fate ties everything back together. I will posit this. Okay. What if Brad Holmes did get the job with the Lions, or accept the job? Sorry, not get, really accept it and go through with it, because he said he had kind of accepted it. But what if he had wholeheartedly accepted it? Does Brad Holmes become Brad Holmes? Does Brad Holmes become Brad Holmes? Does he become a footnote, a guy that you didn't know that worked here because no one knew that Brad Holmes almost worked here before? Okay, we know this because when he got hired, like we said, he glossed over it. But no one knew this when we hired him. No one said, oh, that guy is up at the podium. He almost worked for the Lions 18 years ago. No, that didn't happen. Right? Telemated Media said, you are correct, sir. So this is the point, okay? But Brad Holmes did what Brad Holmes needed to do in order to become the Detroit Lions general manager. And I think everyone is grateful for that. I just wish he had spent a little bit more time on the edge rushing position. Okay, now I want to take a brief, because there's some other things to get to from the interview, but I want to take a brief little segue here and address something. So shout out to Ahmed Hassani's father. He's very passionate about his son, and he keeps telling me, like, he'll come in and he'll comment, and he's like, oh, he's going to surprise you. It doesn't matter which round that he's drafted in. And this is what I would like to say to Ahmed Hassani's father. The NFL, and I responded in a comment, but I just want to say it on there. The NFL is very different than the university level of football. The fact that Ahmed has been only playing football for 5 years, and then he went to a small school, is stacked against him. All of these things, plus he was drafted in the 6th round, is stacked against him. That being said, as we had Doc on the show a couple days ago, he has said that Ahmed is not about the media. He's not about anything else right now except for the playbook. And he's diving into the playbook, trying to dissect it and digest it as quickly as possible so that he can hit the ground running. So if he turns out to be a stud, I will not be surprised. I will be surprised if it happens year one because of the uphill battle that he has. Right? My problem, and it's not even a problem. My thing about Ahmed is that, again, we are putting a lot of weight on the shoulders of a sixth-round player. A couple years ago, we drafted a guy by the name of James Houston. There was no weight on his shoulders whatsoever. At all. Okay, there was a little bit of buzz about James Houston because James Houston, while it wasn't the SWAC, had 19 sacks in a season. His final season in college had 19 sacks. It was a little bit of a buzz. Was there this groundswell of buzz and hype? No. Once he hit the field and then produced 8 sacks in 7 games, then there became expectations. Then there was hype. Okay? So, again, my only point is that if you are a 5th rounder, a 6th rounder, a 7th rounder, I just want to see the stages. The first stage and the first step is you got to make the team. And I think Ahmed will be given all of the opportunity to make the team. Okay? I think he's going to be given extra opportunities to make the team. He may even start on the practice squad, but I think he's going to make the official roster. Also, Dan Campbell is not one to put you on the roster just because you say you will die for him on the field. So this is my point. Not rooting against him. Hope he does well. I don't expect him to do anything. I don't expect him to contribute in year 1. And that's the problem. That's why we need to bring back Big Z, because we need someone who is going to contribute this year. Because we are trying to win a Super Bowl this year. Right? And if you are pinning all of your hopes on a 6th-round rookie, which Brad Holmes is not doing, which Dan Campbell is not doing, they understand that that Ahmed Hassanin is raw and he needs development. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? Now, if I was around here saying he sucks, he's going to be trash, he's this, that, and the third thing, by all means, I'm out of pocket. I'm wrong. Okay? And I'm not saying that. I don't say anyone sucks and is trash unless their name is Jeffrey Namumbo or Hell No Kuda. That's really the only person that I really can't come up here and say they suck and they're trash and they're garbage. That's it. Jeffrey Namumbo Oh, hell no, Kuda. That's it. I don't really say that about anybody else. I say Stafford threw too many picks when he was in Detroit. I never told you Stafford was garbage and he looked like he never played football before in his life, and he looked like he should have been the quarterback on any UFL team. No, never said that. Never said it. Jeffrey Namumbo, oh hell no, Kuda. Welcome to the UFL, my friend. Welcome to the UFL. All right. Let's get back to what we were talking about. TaylorMade Media says, if we're being honest, the kid out of Boise State is a developmental project out of the 6th round. Yes. That's what I'm saying, if we're being honest. But I'm being honest. Okay? A lot of people are not. That's all. Okay? Shout out Doc. He said he likes the fact that I'm being honest. Right? He likes the fact that I ask the hard questions and I don't, kiss everybody's ass who plays for the Detroit Lions. Right? Shout out Lions Syndicate. He don't do that either. Right? The thing about it is this. You get labeled as a hater, you get labeled as this, that, and the third thing. As Lions Syndicate said, we are fanalists. The fan comes first. Right? So I am a fanalist. The fan comes first. I analyze second. As a fan of the team, I'm going to hype up the players that are good and making an impact. As a fan of the team, I'm going to call to task the players that are not. Right? Now, I'm going to be analytical. I'm going to give you stats and not static. I'm going to help you keep your Lions news pragmatic. I'm going to do all those things. That's the analytical side. That's the analyst side. The fan in me wants a Super Bowl for my team and my city because we've never had one. We got 4 NFL championships, and they're not called Super Bowl rings. They're not called Lombardi trophies. This was before it became the Super Bowl. This is before there was a trophy called the Lombardi. The last one was in 1957. I wasn't alive. My father was 12 years old. Okay? I bleed blue like no one else in my family. Honolulu blue runs through my veins like no one else in my family. My father, my brothers, they don't care nothing about the Lions. My sister is the only one that cares. You know what I'm saying? But it's like a go Lions because the Lions won a game. You know what I'm saying? Shout out G-Mac Cash. But it's not no like real rah. You know what I'm saying? What's up, baby boy? You coming over to watch the game? You know what I'm saying? Bringing the chips and the soda. You know what I mean? Bring the Faygo pop. No, I'm talking about. Yeah, that's not happening with my sister. Okay, so I'm really the only one in my family that bleeds that Honolulu blue. So yes, I am a fan first. Okay, but the analyst cap, I got to put that on. Okay, I got to put the analyst cap on. This is the analyst cap. Okay, and I got to say, pump the brakes. Just pump the brakes. Let the man develop. Don't put any expectations on him. If he contributes year one, great. If he doesn't play a single snap year one, don't be upset. I won't be. Because he was taken in the 6th round. That's the point. So Mr. Hassanin, the fact that he was drafted in the 6th round is better for him because there is no pressure. And if the Lions fans were not rabid as they are sometimes, they would let this man do his work and develop so that he can get on the field and make an impact. What up, though, Salty Pork Chops? What up, though, Tactical Spork? So you saying you don't drink 40s? No, I don't. I don't drink alcohol. Boy, it's just alcohol. So, you know what I'm saying? I live a clean life. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do drugs. I'm not Kelly Stafford. You know what I'm saying? I am not Kelly Stafford over here talking about she uses weed gummies as a parenting tool. So she can, you know, she stays high so she can be a better parent. That woman's a curse. I'm sorry. She is a curse. She's an albatross, and I wish that Matthew Stafford could just get it from around his neck. That's all I'm saying. But they probably don't have a prenup. Matthew Stafford don't seem like the type. You just don't. All right. Another interesting thing, an interesting tidbit that came out of this interview. I listened to it, but you know, it's when you have shout out Allen Robinson, man. If y'all didn't see, he was on the heavies yesterday. Great interview. I'll go over what he said, his opinion about something in a second here. But I gotta grab this. All right. I got to grab this. Oh, also, Mike Payton back with another article. NFL analyst predicts the Lions trade for former 5th overall pick, why it's smart, and what a trade would look like. We'll get into that because it is some edge rusher stuff. It may be smart for the Detroit Lions, but it's not smart for the team that drafted him, at least not right now. It makes absolutely no sense for the team that drafted him right now. All right, so this one says how Marshall Faulk impacted Lions' decision to draft Jahmyr Gibbs. The Detroit Lions, this is from Christian Boer of Detroit Lions on SI. Obviously, shout out Detroit Lions on SI. Shout out the Doc and everything that they do over there. I am glad to bring in their content and everything. As I said, I don't really mess with Pride of Detroit. It goes way back. It goes way back when I used to watch them on Twitch on their stream. Yeah, so, but shout out to Doc. Y'all know he came on the show a few days ago. So we are good in the hood. And I met Doc in the chat. You know, that's the thing. I think I was in the maybe it was not Wake Up. It was the morning show before Wake Up Woodward was what it is now. And yeah, I met him in the chat. So shout out Doc, man. Good dude. Very, very hardworking. But this is from Christian Boer, how Marshall Faulk impacted the Lions' decision to draft Jahmyr Gibbs. The Detroit Lions drew some criticism from their decision to draft running back Jahmyr Gibbs with the number 12 overall pick in the 2023 draft. General Manager Brad Holmes had to endure plenty of naysayers. What's up, my naysayer? Criticizing his choice to draft the Alabama product with the selection in an era where the running back position is being devalued. Ultimately, the decision has panned out well for the Lions and Gibbs. His explosiveness has been the perfect addition to the offense as he rushed for over 1,400 yards last season, along with contributing as a pass catcher. I think he had I think he had 2,000 yards, scrimmage yards last season. During a recent or very, very close, I think he might have been a few yards off of it. During a recent appearance on the Field Talk podcast, Holmes shared that part of the conviction that he had regarding the pick came from a conversation he had with Hall of Fame running back Marshall Faulk. The legendary running back was explaining that with salary cap constraints, having versatile running backs with more expansive skill sets would be important in the league moving forward. This was years ago. This wasn't like recently that they had this conversation. When Holmes turned on the film of Gibbs, he saw exactly the type of player that Faulk had been describing. Okay, when I was a PR intern with the Rams, okay, so we started off talking about this, that first training camp in Macomb, Illinois, the first one, I had the opportunity to interview Marshall Faulk for the website. I'll never forget. Marshall said, where this game is going to, you don't have the space. And I think he reiterated to financials with the cap. Holmes said, you can't have a short yardage back and a third down back and a scat back and a goal line back. You've got to be able to do it all, man. When I first started looking at Jahmyr Gibbs, that conversation I had with Marshall Faulk just started coming back to me. The guy's a weapon and can just do it all, man. So he had this conversation with Marshall Faulk 20 years ago, okay? And it came back to him. Shout out to Brad Holmes, man. The recall that you have to have when you're watching. Now, you've watched thousands of players in this time period because remember, as I said, he got into scouting pretty quickly. So he was a scout, just a scout. Then he was a regional scout. Then he was a national scout. Then he was the director of pro scouting. So I'm going to say he probably watched hundreds of thousands of hours of film. And he probably watched tens of thousands of players. Okay? And for a conversation to come back 20 years later into your head when you watch this specific player, that means that player has to be special. And Jahmyr Gibbs has proven in 2 short years how special he is and how special he can be. So I guess we should say shout out to Marshall Faulk. I'm going to get to the chat in a second. Shout out to Marshall Faulk for Jahmyr Gibbs. All right, what y'all got in the chat? Let me pop this thing up. Salty Pork Chop says Clout Chaser is more like it. Who's Clout Chaser? Damn, didn't realize Gibbs had 50 plus reception last season. So, you don't notice it. You don't notice it. You got little screens, little dump offs and things like that. You just don't notice it. And you don't notice how much. J-Mo had 50 receptions and 1,000 yards. So I forget who was saying it, but someone was saying, because I consume so much content, so sometimes it runs together. Someone was saying that with Jameson Williams, and if you guys know who it was, let me know in the chat. Someone was saying that with Jameson Williams, the thing that is so good about him is that you don't have to give him all these receptions to get his yardage, which opens up the door for all the other people. I think it might have been Allen Robinson. I think it was Allen Robinson. And I did say we'll go over his interview on the heavies. If you guys didn't see it, you definitely should watch it, but not right now. Don't leave. Don't leave. Don't leave me, girl. Okay. Oh, Salty was talking about Kelly Stafford. Okay. Yeah, because I said she was a curse, and you said more like a clout chaser. Okay. Well, yeah. That's the highlight we're talking with J-Mo, is that he did all of that with just 50. I think he had like 56, 57 receptions and 1,001 yards. So I believe it was Allen Robinson that said that with him, because you have so many other weapons on offense, that you open up the floor because you don't have to force feed him. He doesn't have to get the targets. He doesn't have to get the ball, because every time he gets it, he has the ability to take it to the house. Take it to the house, 305. Take it to the house. Okay. Anyway, hashtag if you know, use the hashtag. Tactical sport he already used the hashtag on the last one. I didn't even have to tell him to. So yeah, that was the thing with J-Mo that Allen Robinson was saying. We will get to that later. The crazy thing though is that Marshall Faulk. Now we talk about the players, and this goes into the insight that a player has when he becomes a coach. And you can't do it all the time because it's just got to be, the guy has to have the right temperament to be a coach. Michael Jordan knows that he could never coach. He tried to run a team and be the head office guy, the GM. He couldn't do that either because he didn't evaluate talent well. But you have to have the right temperament. But when you have the right temperament, and this is why the Detroit Lions coaching staff works so well. Dan Campbell has the right temperament. Dan Campbell knew he wanted to go into coaching. He went into coaching almost immediately after he retired. Okay? Kelvin Shepard knew he wanted to be a coach. Aaron Glenn knew he wanted to be a coach. Casey Rogers knew he wanted to be good. Like, these guys have the correct temperament. Aubrey Pleasant, now I'd have lost my stuff too. I'd have got frustrated too if I had to deal with one Jeffrey Namumbo and hell no Kuda. I would have crashed out on him too. But everyone is not a teacher, right? Not everyone can articulate what needs to be articulated. Not everyone can explain what needs to be explained. And not everyone can tell you how to do what they need to tell you how to do. And we've got, I guess, the perfect assortment of players, of coaches who used to be players that are able to teach and to do all those things that are necessary. So with Marshall Faulk, he's not a coach, but just to understand his insight, 20 years ago, he's telling a PR intern in an interview that the way this game is going, with all the changes that are happening with contracts and financially and the roster, you're not going to be able to have these guys. Because back in the day, you had that, right? You would have a goal line back. Look at Mike Allstott. Look at Peyton Hillis, right? Both of those guys got the Madden cover. I know Peyton Hillis did. I think Mike Allstott did. Okay? But they were the short yardage backs. They weren't, look, Mike Allstott ran a 4.8 40, okay? Mike Allstott was like, freaking 400 pounds. He wasn't that big, but you understand what I'm saying. He did do more than one thing, but he was just a big back known for his power. He wasn't going to cut you. He wasn't going to juke you out. He was going to run through you, and he was going to be hard to bring down. And he was good on the goal line and in the red zone. Okay? But for Marshall Faulk to know all those things, it's like, man, you got to roll them all into one, because at the end of the day, you're not going to have it. Now, where he not differed or erred or anything of this nature, but what he didn't see was that we were going to move away from the running back, and now we were going to have tandems and duos. I don't know if we ever get back to the bell cow back, which is why the records of Barry Sanders and the Emmitt Smiths and all those things, I don't think they're going to be touched. You've got to have a team that goes, this guy can do everything that we need him to do, and we're going to pay him like a Saquon Barkley. But see, when you pay Saquon Barkley also has a change of pace back in Kenneth Gainwell. So it's gonna take a Saquon Barkley, probably Jahmyr Gibbs style contract, and a guy that does it all on his own for those records to ever be in jeopardy again. But shout out to Marshall Faulk and his insight of understanding the way that the game is going to a certain degree. All right. Trick Daddy. He said, I may not have the movies, but I got the music. I got you. Maybe, but you had to tackle Mike. Yeah, and that Mike Allstott wasn't one to be tackled very easily. It took a village. It took a village to tackle Mike Allstott. The NFL is about the QBs and the wide receivers. When Netflix does a CB season, I ain't hard to find a CB series. The cornerbacks, you probably could. Sauce is inappropriate. If you know, Sauce is inappropriate. It's about marketability. I mean, Terrion could be on it. You know what I mean? Jair Alexander probably could be on it because he's a little nuts. I don't know if Patrick Surtain would be on it, even though he's the best corner in the league. He doesn't look like he says much. Wide receivers are known to be divas. You got Antonio Brown out here shooting at people. That was wild. That was very wild. If y'all haven't seen the video, with Antonio Brown shooting into. He didn't shoot into a crowd. He was shooting at a specific person. So yes, there is currently a warrant out for his arrest for attempted murder. But you got your TOs. Calvin wasn't a diva. He didn't really say much. Larry Fitzgerald didn't say much, right? But you got your George Pickens crash out. You got your CD Lambs. You got a lot of characters that you can pull from with wide receivers. Quarterbacks, just the nature of the position, because they're leaders and all this other stuff, you can watch a series on them. And, even someone lame and boring like Cole's Kirk. He's not really lame, actually. He's Kirk O'Chains. He has an alter ego. So come in, trap. Take over your trap. Okay. So then you got Joe Burrow, who's going to be on it this year, who's got, I don't know, personal assistants who seem to maybe possibly get paid for nocturnal activities. It could be. I don't know. The entire thing seemed a bit sketchy. The woman that was over his house when someone tried to break in. But I don't know. That's his business. And he bought the Batmobile. So, he's a guy that you want to watch on a series. But as I said, it's all about marketability. I don't know what cornerbacks nowadays would be on there. Tactical Sports says allegedly. Yes, allegedly. Allegedly. A hydration engineer with nocturnal expertise. I don't know what any of that means, but you probably could make sense of it. A hydration engineer with nocturnal expertise. Yes, it is indeed about marketability. He said nocturnal activities. If she answers the phone after 9 p.m., that ain't on me. I think you do more than answer the phone after 9 p.m. if you these specific nocturnal activities. They are nocturnal activities of the horizontal persuasion. You understand what I'm saying to you? All right, let me get to this Allen Robinson interview, and then we will call it a day because I got a late start on my day, so I'm gonna have to. Oh, actually, you know what? Basically, let me get to this one. The Allen Robinson thing, he was on the heavies yesterday. You can go watch the interview. Basically, the headline is that he believes that if the team was healthy, they would have won the Super Bowl last year. And what he explained it was, he said, as they got more and more and more injuries, it was as though they were they lost their grip off of a cliff. They were hanging on to a cliff and they just lost their grip and fell off. And so he was talking about the attrition aspect of all of the injuries. All right. Here's the thing. I don't even know if I want to read this whole article. Probably not. But of course, A to Z Sports, so it's Mike Payton. If it's Detroit, A to Z Sports is Mike Payton. It says the edge rusher conversation never stops when it comes to the Detroit Lions. It seems like there's a different guy being talked about every week. This one actually makes some sense, though, if you ask us. Bleacher Report's Brad Gagnon put out 5 bold trades that could be made at the trade deadline this season. And for the Lions, he has them making a deal to acquire former 5th overall pick Kayvon Thibodeau from the New York Giants. Now, Going down further, it says we suggested the Lions trade the 28th pick for Thibodeau and the 65th pick in the second round. Ultimately, the Giants did trade back into the first round to select Jackson Dart. They traded their second and third round picks and a future third to do it. Okay. Now, the trade proposal is this. I'm not going to go through all their reasoning because I think their reasoning is false. The Lions get Kayvon Thibodeau. The Giants get a 2026 fourth round pick and a 2027 fifth round pick. My friend. It says, what would a trade look like? Initially, we thought a third round pick might get it done, but the Lions don't have a third round pick in 2026. Aha. So we had to get a little creative. How in God's name is a fifth overall pick going for a fourth and a fifth? The fifth ain't even from this year. Right? The next draft that we have is 2026. The fifth ain't even from 2026. The fifth is from 2027. I know everybody thinks that the Giants are a clown show of an organization. But that guy, Joe Shine, is not interested in keeping his job if he trades Kayvon Thibodeau for a fourth and a fifth. Here's the thing as well. The New York Giants trading Kayvon Thibodeau now makes very little sense because they have Abdul Carter. If they were trying to blow things up on the defensive line and they didn't draft Abdul Carter, they drafted Travis Hunter. Then this trade or a trade for Kayvon Thibodeau makes sense. What you're basically trying to say with this trade is that the Detroit Lions are going to rent him for the playoff run down the stretch. And they're going to rent him very cheaply because they're only going to give up a fourth and a fifth. Ladies and gentlemen, the silly season is upon us. Okay, listen, this is one I don't use often, but I think this is the perfect situation for this one. Let me see if I can find it. Well, there's obviously this one.
That does not make sense.
Okay. There's that one. And then there's another one I don't use often. Here it goes. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Boy, have you lost your mind? Because I'll help you find it.
Kayvon Thibodeau, drafted 3 slots after Aiden Hutchinson. Not in a different year, in the same draft. Is going for a fourth and a fifth round pick. A fourth round pick for this upcoming draft and a fifth round pick in the draft next year, like after the 2026 round. And conveniently, because we don't have any third rounders because of the Isaac Tesla trade, we're just gonna the Giants are gonna take the fourth and the fifth, and you're gonna be happy with it. If y'all in the chat, if you have any connections with these publications, I told you I don't respect Bleacher Report. I'm starting not to respect A to Z. If you have any contacts within these publications, Bleacher Report, A to Z, PFF, tell them to holler at me. Because I could do this too. I could make up crazy trades. Listen, you know what we're going to do? We're going to trade. We're going to check this out. Check this out. This is a trade proposal. Y'all ain't never heard this. This is going to knock your socks off. Okay. First of all, what we're going to do is we're going to do a sign and trade with the New York Giants, in which the New York Giants are going to be on the hook for a 5-year extension of Kayvon Thibodeau. So they're going to trade Kayvon Thibodeau to us, and they are going to pay his entire salary except for the veterans minimum. So we're going to get Kayvon Thibodeau for 5 years on the veterans minimum. And you know what we're going to give up for Kayvon Thibodeau? We're going to give them Broderick Martin, a bag of Frito-Lays, and a Faygo Pop. That is the trade of the century. Okay? Because every other GM in the league is not really a GM. They are just guys that live in their mom's basement playing fantasy football. And that's how you make trades like that. So they will take Broderick Martin because they don't really want Broderick Martin, but it's the bag of Frito-Lays and the Faygo Pop, which is most enticing to them. Because remember, all the GMs except for Brad Holmes live in their mother's basements. They don't actually have jobs that they get paid for. Y'all thought these guys had salaries? Only Brad Holmes and Howie Roseman have salaries. There are no other GMs that have them, especially not Joe Shine, who I don't know how he keeps his job, but if you make this trade, you're not keeping it. I'm sorry. This doesn't make sense. Kayvon Thibodeau for a 4th and a 5th rounder. Tactical Sports says the edge rusher conversation shouldn't stop until we fix the edge rusher situation. Valid point. I seen another Lions podcast where they think the Bears are trying to sign Darius Smith. I wouldn't be surprised if he completes his tour of the NFC North, and then it'll be the Lions on his hit list because he's publicly told you, I want to come back. His girl is here. He loves the city. He loves the players in the locker room. Bring him back, Brad. Tactical Sports says, yes, I'll take it just to get rid of Broderick Martin. Facts, fantasy football GMs. I said, I don't understand how you posit that trade. I would submit that you have lost your mind and you need to go find it. Because what the actual F are you talking about? And again, for the Giants, it makes absolutely no sense. If you say that you're trying to get better, you are pairing a 5th overall selection with a 3rd overall selection on the same line with Dexter Lawrence. If there's anything that is going to give us problems about the New York Giants when they come to play us, it is that defensive line. The Detroit Lions are expected to be in contention for the Super Bowl. The New York Giants are not expected to be in contention for the Super Bowl. But I'm telling you that if the New York Giants are going to give us any problems at all, it is going to be because they have Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter, and Dexter Lawrence coming after our quarterback every play. And you would simply trade Kayvon Thibodeau to us so we could have Kayvon Thibodeau and Aiden Hutchinson coming after your quarterback on every play for a 4th rounder next year and a 5th rounder the year after that. You must be smoking drugs. Okay? You must be smoking drugs. And you know what that means. Okay? You know what that means. If you are smoking drugs, that means this.
You smoke crack, don't you? You smoke crack, don't you?
What up, though, Just a
Look at me,
Fan?
boy. Don't you smoke crack?
But anyway, I wanted to end on that note. As I said, I've got to get out of here today because had a slow start to the day, overslept, everything. You know, sometimes you need to sleep in. The body goes, hey, stop playing. You're doing too much. Slow yourself down. So I'd rather my body slow me down based off of just sleeping in than having some sort of health issue like a lot of people have to go through before they will slow down. So, yep, had to sleep in today. I need to go ahead and get started with my day. So I appreciate everyone for coming through, hanging out, stopping by for a drinking conversation. Join me next week where my guest will be Skip Bayless. Skip. No, anyway. All right, y'all. Once again, the Motor City Cats are back at it. Appreciate you, Just a Fan. You too as well. The Motor City Cats are back at it. We came to give you stats and not static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. And we are out. Peace.